Hello there, very good evening. This is the weekend edition of Primetime News on TV1 for the News First, where the people come first. I'm Martin Satyanesan. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for this evening.
Sri Lanka unconditionally recognizes fundamental right to freedom of expression. Foreign Minister Ali Sabri speaks at UN General Assembly. 82 people arrested during Socialist Youth Union protest, released on bail. Suppression cannot silence the voice of the people. A statement from Anukumar Disanayaka. Withdraw the gazette establishing high security zones. Centre for Policy Alternatives requests the President. President to depart on official visit to Japan and the Philippines.
Now those stories in detail. Minister of Foreign Affairs of Sri Lanka, Ali Sabri, addressed the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly.
Speaking at the United Nations General Assembly, Minister Ali Sabri said that Sri Lanka unconditionally recognizes the fundamental right to freedom of expression as sacrosanct and pledged to build back better by leaving no one behind and to rise to new horizons of freedom and progress.
The external and internal challenges we face provide an opportunity for implementing political, social and economic reform that will lead to recovery and prosperity for our people. Sri Lanka believes that this is the moment to realize our collective vision for the future, an opportunity to build a more just, sustainable and prosperous future for all Sri Lankans, to build back better. We remain cognizant of and acutely sensitive to the events that have taken place in the recent past. The government is extremely sensitive to the socio-economic hardship faced by our people. We are pleased to have reached a staff-level understanding with the IMF. We unconditionally recognize the fact that one has the fundamental right to freedom of expression, which we all treat as sacrosanct. However, we also be appreciated that this freedom must be within the constitutional order and must be exercised having regard to one's fundamental duty to express oneself within the confines of the law.
82 people who were arrested during a protest organized by the Socialist Youth Union were released on bail earlier today. Police media spokesman, Senior Superintendent of Police Attorney at Law Nihal Taldua told the media that 79 suspects were released on police bail and 3 suspects, including Eranga Gunasekara, were released on personal bail.
The protesters who were arrested during the peaceful protest organized by the Socialist Youth Union against suppression were produced before the Colombo Judicial Medical Officer earlier today. Two Venerable Teros, 76 males and 4 females were among the arrested. The national organizer of the Socialist Youth Union, Eranga Gunasekara, its secretary Vimal Katapeya and Venerable Koswatta Mahanama Tero were also among those who were arrested.
ගහපුව තමයි ඉතින් තියෙන්නේ ගොඩක් අමාරු. ඒ කියන්නේ කවදාවත් ගහපු නැති විදිහට තමයි ගහුවේ. නිහතමානී ආණ්ඩුවක් හදලා තමයි මේ අරගලේ නවත්තන්නේ. එතකන් නවත්තන්නේ නැහැ.
හිතා නැති මේ අරගල ඉවරයි කියලා අරගලේ ආයෙ ආරම්භ කරලා තියෙන්නේ. මේ රටේ තරුණයෝ පෙරට ඇවිල්ලා මැදිහත් වෙලා සටන් කරලා පෙන්නලා දීලා තිනවා කොහොමද අරගලේ දිනන්නේ කියලා. ඒ නිසා රනිල් හිතුවනම් අරගලයට තිතක් තිබ්බේ කියලා අපි යාට කියනවා අපි කොමාවක් දාලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒක නිසා ඔයා යන්නේකුණුත් ඒ වගේම දේශපාලනයේ හොඳ දෙයක් වෙනකුණුත් අපි සටන් කරනවා. ජය වේවා. කුටි ගාව.
Eranga Gunasekara and Venerable Koswatta Mahanama Tero, who were arrested during the protest, were produced before the Maliga Kanda Magistrate Court earlier today. The Maliga Kanda Acting Magistrate Sunita Dayas released them on sureties of 200,000 rupees each. The officers deployed to protect their mansions are youth from our villages. Soon, when the parents of these youth start dying without medicine, they will also join the Aragale. The very officers who charge at us with their batons will stand with us in the Aragale in the near future. When that day comes, there will be no one left to defend Ranil Rajapaksa. Although they tried to use various laws to arrest us, arrest our brothers and sisters, attack our brothers and sisters and stop our movement, we finally ended by holding the rally at Town Hall. We did not shirk in the face of your thuggery. Try and impose all the laws you want and protect your mentions. We will overcome all of it democratically and fight together with the youth.
තරුණයොත් එක්ක සටන් කරනවා.
අපි පැහැදිලිවම කිව්වා මේ
We clearly informed them that this protest was staged in accordance with the constitution of this country and other laws. They said that we entered a high security zone. We would like to question as to why this was not included in the B report that was filed today. We clearly said that Dean's Road has not been mentioned in any of these gazette notifications. We were attacked when we were informing them about this. If this is how the Sri Lanka police is functioning, this is a serious breakdown in the rule of law. We will file the first fundamental rights application in the Supreme Court. We will file 84 separate FR applications. We would like to inform all of these high-ranking officers that although you might play all sorts of games in your arena, not a single politician will protect you once you step out of this arena of yours. Those who were held at Mardana, Slave Island and foreshore police stations were also released on police bail.
Leader of the Janata Vimukti Peramuna, Andra Kumara Dissanayake, speaking at a media briefing, said that the voice of the people cannot be silenced by state suppression.
None of these people are supposed to be in prison even for a single day. Murderers are holding ministerial positions. Criminals are holding ministerial positions. People who have been convicted in court, sentenced to 4 years and slapped with a fine of 2 million are holding ministerial portfolios. None of these young people should be in the police station for even an hour. What is the crime they have committed? Have they looted public property? Have they wasted public funds? No. So remember this. We feel anger and sorrow when we see the people who really love this country being thrown in jail, while the people who should be in prison are holding ministerial portfolios.
The protest march organized by the Socialist Youth Union did not go beyond the scope of the rights vested with them under the Constitution. But similar to what happened countless times before, they too were attacked. When attacking these protesters, they're using these officials to violate the Constitution. We would like to warn the police officers who are violating the Constitution that we will be filing fundamental rights applications against all of them. You will be held liable individually for your actions. The Alliance of Trade Unions and Mass Organizations spoke about the attacks carried out by the police on protesters and state suppression. Where does it say that protesters must be pursued and assaulted? What is their basis for carrying out these attacks? They are saying that these protesters cannot be held and that the police must be informed 6 hours before according to the police ordinance. None of that is relevant. Can the police ordinance suppress a fundamental right ensured by the Constitution? The incidents that unfolded yesterday are an indication that the government is ready to go to the highest levels of brutality to suppress the voice of the people. It is difficult for the government to suppress the democratic voice of the people like this. The people are not responsible for the increase in the price of goods. This was a result of incompetent management. There are several demands that were put forward by the Aragalaya. We will stand with the Aragalaya until these just demands are fulfilled. The reason for this is because the Aragalaya is a movement of the people of Sri Lanka.
The Trade Union Coordinating Centre convened a press conference today and commented on the government's actions. The day the entire country joins the Aragalaya is not far away. Therefore, if you want, make the entire country high security zones. Even if you imprison 80 people, 100 people, 1,000 people or 100,000 people, this struggle cannot be stopped. You are an unlawful president. We will break your law tomorrow as well. Therefore, you better set up safe havens for your cronies to seek refuge in other parts of the country. We took the streets to ask you to leave respectfully. Even if you kidnap us, murder us, we have no answer but the Aragalaya. We know the concept of high security zones came to our country to protect the people of our country from terrorists. Now we have to differentiate and identify who are the terrorists and who are the people of the country. I would like to remind the people of this country that if we do not continue the Aragalaya, we will have to die labelled as terrorists. That is why we would like to inform Ranil Wickremesinghe that this journey that you are trying to embark on by labelling all the people of the country as terrorists is short.
The National Bhikkhu Front expressed these views at a press conference held today regarding the government's policy of repression. When the people are starving and demand for food and the right to live, if this is how the government responds with batons and tear gas, or by declaring open the Lotus Tower and asking people to go visit it, then the people are not going to tolerate this any longer. The people of this country will run out of patience and come in search of you, despite of what laws, acts or gazettes you might issue. They go to Geneva and speak about how well they protect our rights, but even before the sessions in Geneva conclude, they are unleashing suppression upon the people of our country.
Amnesty International South Asia tweeted on the arrest of protesters by Sri Lankan authorities yesterday.
In a tweet, Amnesty International South Asia said, and I quote, "By arresting at least 84 peaceful protesters, Sri Lankan authorities have reaffirmed its intolerance towards dissent," unquote. The tweet goes on to state, quote, "Ironically, these peaceful protesters were demonstrating against the state's suppression of dissent," unquote. Amnesty International South Asia further said that all peaceful protesters must be released now. Amnesty International South Asia also raised concerns regarding the recent declaration of high security zones in Sri Lanka. The tweet read, quote, "We are also concerned by the designation of high security zones around Colombo, attempting to further obstruct demonstrations. Peaceful protest is a human right," unquote.
The Centre for Policy Alternatives is gravely concerned by the gazette published by President Ranil Wickremesinghe on Friday, declaring many areas in and around Colombo as high security zones.
In a statement, the Centre for Policy Alternatives said, and I quote, "A close examination of the official Secret Act shows that these regulations are not within the scope of the Act, which has as its primary objective the protection of confidential information for the defence of the country," unquote. CPA noted at the outset that the substance of the orders or regulations and their purpose are clearly legal and contrary to the fundamental rights guaranteed by the Constitution. The statement highlighted that these fundamental rights cannot be restricted merely by regulations promulgated under the Official Secrets Act. The Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka is due to meet on Monday the 26th to discuss a Gazette notification issued declaring several areas in and out of Colombo as high security zones. The Gazette notification was issued on Friday the 23rd by President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
While the establishment of high security zones in the country's capital is being broadly discussed, within the past few hours, 2 lives were lost due to the lack of security in rural Sri Lanka.
A resident of Kabaragoya Weber in Katupat Weber was cycling home on his bicycle with his 2.5-year-old child. They fell victim to a wild elephant attack. The father and his child barely made it out alive. The 2.5-year-old child has sustained serious injuries to both his head and leg. However, a 47-year-old father of 2 in Rambeva did not manage to survive a wild elephant attack. Villagers claim that 10 other people had died previously after being attacked by the same wild elephant who attacked this man. The Rambeva village in Anuradhapura is under the constant threat of wild elephant attacks. The human-elephant conflict claims more and more lives every day as authorities fail to provide a viable solution to the issue and ensure that the security of these people is ensured.
You've just witnessed how the security of the people living in parts of Sri Lanka have been jeopardized. Meanwhile, here are the views that were expressed regarding the high security zones that were recently declared in Colombo.
குறிப்பிட்ட பகுதிகள்
Certain areas have been declared as high security zones. These were not done merely on the whim of the president or the government. These high security zones were declared based on the recommendation of the State Intelligence Service. This is a timely need. The advice of the intelligence units cannot be disregarded by the president, the prime minister or the government.
කොළඹ නගරයේ ස්ථාන බොහෝමයක් අධිආරක්ෂක කලාප වශයෙන් නම් කරලා තියෙනවා මේ තත්ත්වෙන් ජනතාව දැඩි අසුරතාවට පත් වෙලා ඉන්නවා.
Well, this is not going to affect the daily lives of the people. It will only affect certain acts of sabotage. The government is dead scared. There is no terrorism in the country. There is no war. There is no threat to the lives of the people. But the leaders of our country are scared. The rulers are scared to walk on the roads. I don't believe they should designate certain locations as high security zones. These rulers who are living in fear should be given mobile high security zones because they will need that security wherever they go in the future.
The Samagi Youth Lawyers Council expressed their opinions regarding the implication of new regulations by the government to suppress the people. They made these remarks at a press conference held earlier today.
According to this act, people have to obtain prior approval from the authorities to enter these premises. Even someone who is coming to courts must obtain prior approval. If not, they can be arrested and face a lawsuit which could result in a 2-year prison sentence. What is this government trying to do? They are telling the people not to demand any rights from this government. They will suppress you and force you to stay within the 4 walls of your house. That's the message the government is trying to give. Ranil Wickremesinghe has no right to suppress the people's right to free movement by issuing such gazettes. Activists of the struggle held a press conference today and expressed their views about the state suppression.
බල්ලෝ තමන්ගේ ටෙරිටරි එක මාක් කරන්න වටේ තියෙන ලයිට් කණු වලටයි තාප් වලටයි සුළු දේ පහ කරනවා. ඒ වගේම තමයි
Ranil Wickremesinghe is trying to mark his territory by declaring certain areas as high security zones. I would like to say that in a few days people will completely disregard these high security zone gazettes of yours because the economic pressure on the people of this country is higher. We have nothing to ask Ranil Rajapaksa nor any of these as we have no business with them. Our only request for them is to go home. Declaring high security zones and hiding behind them are characteristics of weak leadership.
ඔය හැංගෙන්න තියෙන බය තියෙන්නේ. ඕක තමයි දුර්වලම නායකයන්ගේ ලක්ෂණ. ඒක දන්නේ නැත්නම් බට ලන්දෙට අපි කියනවා බට නන්දකින් ඉගෙන ගන්න.
The program to collect signatures for the petition demanding for the Prevention of Terrorism Act to be repealed was conducted in Suryakanda Kolonna in the Ratnapura district today. High security zones have now been established. I believe since MP Hesha brought us here, they might even declare this area as a high security zone. The government is scared. If there are secret documents, that section of the building can be gazetted as an area where people cannot enter. That is what can be done under the Official Secrets Act. This is completely illegal. I believe that certain groups are going to challenge this matter in court. The government was unable to do this under the emergency law, and now they're trying to do it under the Official Secrets Act. This is a joke. A group of citizens not affiliated to any political party gathered in Timirigasaya to protest against state suppression today.
With Gota leaving, we also wanted a complete system overhaul and a system change. Ranil has replaced Gotabaya as president. It is now apparent, it is now evident 2 months after that there is no system change. It is the same system that is continuing, just with a different leader. And we said that Ranil is not going to bring any change because he has been voted in by 134 of the main ruling Port Tour party. And those are the guys who are responsible for the previous debacle. We are not asking for governments to change. We are asking for the president and the government to listen to what the people are saying. Not when what the people are saying is uncomfortable, you arrest people.
You who were appointed by a distorted parliament suppressed the people from the day that you came into office. You cannot suppress the Aragale of the people. We would like to remind you that the people far outnumber your paramilitaries. All of these people will take the streets. But there is something that you can do. You say that a majority of the people are with you. If the majority of the people support you, hold an election and prove it. If not, please listen to the people and leave.
We'll continue with more local stories after this short commercial break. Stay tuned.
In times of need, in times of sorrow, both today and tomorrow, with the people, Gamnadda, empowering the nation.
News First, main sponsor.
Anka ege ආරක්ෂිත ඉටිගිනි පෙට්ටිය. සූර්යා ගිනි පෙට්ටි.
මොකද මහත්තයා මේ?
නෑ මේ ගෙදර සිංක් එකේ
අයි මහත්තයා ස්ලෝන් නෙමෙයිද දැම්මේ?
හදිස්සියට බාලා පයිප්පයක් දැම්මේ. නැද්ද මුදලාලි ඊයේ පෙරේදා කඩේ රිපෙයාර් කරන්න ගෙනාපු ගම් චුට්ටක්.
මේ වගේ ප්‍රශ්න වලට හොඳම විසඳුම ස්ලෝන් ගම් චුට්ටක්. හැබැයි ඉක්මනින් දාගන්න ස්ලෝන් පයිප්පයක්.
ස්ලෝන් ගම් චුට්ටා හැම ගෙදරකම සිටිය යුතු ජලනල කාර්මිකයා දැන් රඟම ග්‍රොසරියෙන් මිලදී ගන්න.
Welcome back to the news. The number of children suffering with malnutrition in Sri Lanka appears to be increasing daily. While parents are struggling to keep their children alive, a tragic incident where a child was abandoned was reported from Paduvasnuwara.
The cry of a baby coming from a forest-like area in Paduvasnuwara caught the attention of a woman passing by. She followed the sound of the cries and discovered that the cries seemed to be coming from a sack left in the forest. Inside the sack, she found this newborn baby. The infant was cold and hungry and may have been crying out for his mother. However, for reasons unknown, this child's mother will not be coming to comfort him. The villagers had called 119 and taken steps to have the baby hospitalized.
A woman living next door was going to tend to her cattle. She had heard the sound of a crying child. She then shouted out saying that there is a child tied up in a bag who was crying. Even the umbilical cord of the child had not been cut off.
The infant is currently under the care of the staff at the Nikavaratia hospital. The hospital staff said that the infant is now in good health.
Why have authorities been unable to carry out their duties in solving the problems of the people? This is a commonly asked question from the general public. The All Island Gram and Nildaris Union explained why they are unable to carry out their duties during a media briefing held earlier today. They have issued a circular stating that Gram and Nildaris should take responsibility for families facing malnutrition. If we are to do that, then the government must first tell us what the way forward is. We do not condone the government simply passing the ball. The ministers and the MPs sorted out the fuel allowance. None of the lower level officials were given any benefits. We will not take responsibility for these families who are facing malnutrition. They can't just pass the ball on to us.
It was reported from Colombo Grand Pass Divorce area that the work of a sewage pipe system which was going to be repaired at the expense of the public had to be stopped due to the intervention of the local councillor.
The renovations of a sewage pipeline that was being carried out by funds collected from 18 families in the area was abruptly halted last evening. The members of 18 families in the Vas place have been suffering for 1.5 years due to a faulty sewage system. Although these people informed the local authority and local politicians in the area, their woes fell on deaf ears. These residents who could not take it any longer decided to pool in their own funds, inform the local authority and carry out the repairs of the sewage system under the supervision of the local authority. There are 18 families residing here. Their sewage goes through this. It is broken and no one can fix it. We informed everyone, but no one came. We have submitted a letter to both the Grand Pass Police and the PHI.
We asked them to come and fix the sewage system and that we will collect money and provide the necessary materials. They agreed to this. It's been 2 days since the repairs began, and since they dug out the sewage system, the people here have not been using their toilets. When everything was almost done and the final pipe was about to be laid, a politician here informed them to stop the work.
The people are only requesting that they be given the opportunity to complete the repairs of this sewage system.
Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa says the people must be given the opportunity to cast their vote in order for the country to come out of the severe economic crisis.
Their first chapter resulted in destroying an entire nation. What's in store for us in the second chapter? What's in store for us in chapter number 2? Another crisis. Are we to stand by idly and watch, or should we do something about it? We cannot just sit back and watch. We must revive the country. We must allow people to decide their future. We can't do this by associating ourselves with thieves. We're in desperate need of an alternative. There are only 2 ways that's going to happen. Either we go for a general election, or else we go for a presidential election. The SJB is prepared for either. The opposition leader made these remarks during a party meeting in Casbah.
United States Permanent Representative to the UN Food and Agriculture Agencies in Rome, Ambassador Cindy McCain, arrived in Sri Lanka today. She will remain in the country until the 28th of September.
During her visit, Ambassador Cindy McCain will highlight US food assistance programs in Sri Lanka and reinforce the US commitment and lasting partnership with Sri Lanka. In addition to meeting with senior government officials and aid organizations in Colombo, Ambassador McCain will join US Ambassador Sri Lanka to travel to the central province to visit schools, agricultural research facilities and community organizations. They will also meet with recipients and implementers of relief provided through the US government-funded humanitarian assistance programs.
Meanwhile, President Ranil Wickremesinghe is scheduled to leave this island early tomorrow morning on an official visit to Japan and Philippines.
According to the President's media division, during his 2-day official visit to Japan, the President will participate in the state funeral of former Prime Minister of Japan Shinzo Abe and will hold bilateral discussions with Japanese Prime Minister, Foreign Minister and Finance Minister. During his visit to the Philippines, President Wickremesinghe will hold discussions with the President of the Philippines and the President of the Asian Development Bank. President Wickremesinghe is scheduled to return to the country upon completion of his official tour on the 30th of September.
The 4th edition of the Divi Savya program, supported by LOLC Holdings, seeking to support the most impoverished communities in Sri Lanka, continued for the 21st day. Today's program was carried out centering the Polonnaruwa district.
The aim of the Divi Savya program is to support low-income earners to get nutritious meals on a daily basis. Today's program, supported by LOLC Holdings, got underway in the Polonnaruwa district. Under the Divi Savya program, essential goods are being distributed to low-income families facing serious financial difficulties across Sri Lanka.
The new member orientation 2022 of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka was held in Colombo on Thursday.
CA Sri Lanka's new member orientation 2022 marked a significant milestone for the new members, as it was their first official event as chartered accountants. The newly qualified chartered accountants were welcomed by Chairman of Members Relations Committee of CA Sri Lanka, Tishan Subasinghe, who also shared from his own experiences in terms of career progression.
Having career progression and success, they all are connected to leadership.
The keynote speaker for the night was Shevan Daniel.
Leadership is a craft. It's something you must master. You must work on it every single day.
Niroshi Sirivansa, the head of member relations for CA Sri Lanka, conducted a number of icebreaker activities.
There is a catch here. You can't break the wave. What's the third one? the super quality.
And it is limited in Sri Lanka.
One more table. Table 22, enabling everybody to stand out uniquely amidst many challenges.
Table number 3, it's Sharks. Congratulations.
Thereafter, she talked about the CPD journey. Kumar De Silva spoke on general corporate etiquette.
Eye contact, and you talk with your eyes, you talk with your hands, your voice, all that this way.
While Harshana Dasanayaka and Dilrukshi Hettiarachi spoke about dining etiquette.
And not only we will be sharing the ideas, but we are going to be practicing certain things also.
For over 6 decades, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka has been on the front lines in developing the accounting profession across Sri Lanka.
In more local news, a walk for pediatric cancer held to mark Pediatric Cancer Month was held in Colombo today.
The walk for pediatric cancer got underway at 8 this morning opposite the British School Borella and proceeded to the Shalika grounds. The event was organised by the Indira Cancer Trust together with Lions Club 306B2, National Cancer Control Programme and the colleges of paediatricians and oncologists. This was the first ever Pediatric Cancer Awareness Walk.
In international news, an independent rights group stated hundreds of people have been arrested by authorities as protests against Russia's new partial mobilization continue across the country.
The human rights group OVD Info said 724 people were detained across 32 different cities on Saturday. Widespread demonstrations have broken out since President Vladimir Putin announced plans to draft 300,000 men to fight in Ukraine. Unsanctioned rallies being banned under Russian law. Putin's move to draft civilians into the military has sparked large-scale protests in urban areas, with more than 1,000 people being detained at demonstrations earlier this week. Some of those arrested on Saturday reported being given their draft papers after being detained. Moscow has also approved harsh new punishments for those accused of dereliction of duty once drafted. According to foreign media, Putin signed fresh decrees on Saturday, imposing punishments of up to 10 years imprisonment for any soldier caught surrendering, attempting to desert the military, or refusing to fight. It further said the president also signed orders granting Russian citizenship to any foreign national who signs up to serve a year in the country's military.
Women have been at the forefront of escalating protests in Iran, sparked by the death in custody of a woman detained for breaking hijab laws. The official death toll in the deadly anti-hijab protests in Iran has risen to 41 and over 700 have been arrested.
The Iran Human Rights Commission said that nearly a dozen more than the actual number have died in the protests that began over Mahsa Amini's death. Iran's President Ebrahim Raisi said they must deal decisively with protests which have erupted in the country's 31 provinces. It was also reported that the government has put restrictions on internet access. Authorities accused protesters of killing 2 civilians in Kermanshah as well as a police assistant in Shiraz. The protesters are striking for their scale, ferocity and rare feminist nature, and the last demonstrations of this size were 3 years ago after the government hiked gas prices in 2019. After starting on Saturday at Amini's funeral in Iran's Kurdistan province, the demonstrations have swept much of the country, leading to clashes with security forces trying to quell them.
From that, we bring to a close this edition of Primetime News on TV1. For details of these stories and much more, simply log on to our website www.newsfirst.lk. For the News First, where the people come first, I'm Martin Satyanesan. You take care and good night.